Good morning from the Black Hills of South Dakota. We are in Rapid City, South Dakota on a brisk August the 10th, and it is probably about 55, 56 degrees outside right now. It is much cooler than it was when we left Phoenix, Arizona yesterday. We left at about 12 noon yesterday, 12:30, and it was about 105 degrees when we left yesterday. We landed at 61 degree temperature here in Rapid City, and it was a thunderstorm was going on, raining pretty good, lightning coming into the plane through the window. Karen got a little nervous. I was probably a little nervous myself too, because I think in my entire life that was the first time I'd landed in a thunderstorm. But it's a beautiful morning today. We are staying here at the Best Western Plus. I think it's called the Best Western Plus Rushmore, I believe, because we're only about 35-40 minutes away from Mount Rushmore. And no, that is not our Class A motorhome in the background. We've yet to purchase our motorhome. We're probably going to do that soon. We've got one we're strongly looking at, and we think that's the one we're going to get, but more on that later. But anyways, today, one of the obvious questions, I think we alluded to this before, is why are we in Rapid City, South Dakota and not Phoenix, Arizona? We are changing domiciles. We are gonna become South Dakotian, I guess it's called South Dakotian? South Dakotian residents today. And we're gonna do that by going down to, first we have to get an address. We're going down to America's Mailbox. We have an appointment set up with them at 9:30 in the morning. We're going to do that. We're going to get a permanent address here in Rapid City, and then we're going to go down to the motor vehicle office, and hopefully, we keep our fingers crossed, we're going to get a driver's license, both of us, with photographs, and then we're going to change our auto insurance and a few things like that. And why are we becoming South Dakota residents and not just staying Arizona residents? Really, it's most of it has to do with financial reasons, if not 100% of it with financial reasons. The tax system here in South Dakota is very good. There is no state income tax, so when I get my pension checks, they're going to be taking no state taxes out, and it's better for the way the trusts are set up and the wills are set up out here in South Dakota is much better than a lot of other states. The vehicle registration is much lower, especially when you're registering something like an RV or something like that. Sorry, I got distracted. There's a little, I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but there's a dinosaur over there next to the Sinclair gas. Obviously, but looks like a little brontosaurus. Anyways, got distracted by that. But yeah, so financial reasons, registration of vehicles, things like that. Auto insurance should be cheaper and things of that nature. So that's the biggest reason why we're coming out here. So we're going to do that, get that done today. There are other states that do this. Florida does it, I believe. Oregon does it. I know Florida does. Texas can do that. But each state's got their own different laws and regulations on how you do it. South Dakota is pretty easy. We really only have to stay here one night, and we did that. We're going to get our receipt here from the hotel, and then it's a couple other small hoops we have to jump through, but to become a South Dakota resident is pretty easy. Again, financially, it's a much better situation. So we did that. Last night we had dinner. We flew in yesterday. Last night we had dinner at a place called the Dakota Steakhouse. Really good. We put a couple of still photographs of that up on the Facebook page, but I had basically buffalo ribs. I had a single rib from a buffalo, and it was actually pretty good. It was different. It wasn't probably the best meat I'd ever had, but it was definitely different, and it was very good, enjoyable. What was really wonderful is Karen had walleye. I've never had walleye, she's never had walleye. We had walleye yesterday, and that was an excellent fish. If you like fish, I would definitely have walleye again. So we did that, and then we drove around a little bit in downtown Dakota. Or downtown Rapid City, I should say. This is not a vacation for us. We're just only in here for 2 nights. We're gonna be here tonight, and then we'll be leaving it tomorrow morning. And it's not really a car coming over here. It's not really a vacation for us. We're not going to do any sightseeing. We're not going to Mount Rushmore. In downtown Rapid City, they've got a thing where they have statues of, I think, all the presidents. There's a good number of them. We drove down in downtown Rapid City yesterday, and they've got presidents of Jimmy Carter was down there, and some other ones. I mean, many presidents. In fact, it could be all the presidents. I haven't done the research on that yet, but we saw that if we get an opportunity, we're going to walk in downtown today. We're going to look at the presidents and statues and maybe do some window shopping and things like that. And of course, we'll bring you along. But the priority today, though, is to get is to become South Dakota residents, to get our address, to get our driver's license and things like that. And again, each step of this process too, we're going to talk a little bit about it. We're going to talk about, I'm only alluding to some of the hoops you have to jump through, but we're going to talk about some of the hoops we've got to do. And that's about it. So hope to give some information, some usable information for the people that are out there that are maybe interested in changing their domiciles. But this is ideal for someone who's going to be, or a family who's going to be a full-time RVer. If you're not going to be a full-time RVer, I mean, you know, if you want to separate your two residences, if you want to have like a summer home in South Dakota and then a winter home in like maybe Phoenix or New Mexico or Southern California, you can certainly do that. But I don't know, my belief is you're probably going to have to stay a majority of your time here in South Dakota. You can't do what Karen and I are doing, which is just going down to Mailboxes of America and getting a mailbox and then living, you know, 90% of your time in another state. That's not gonna work. That's probably illegal. IRS would raise red flags with that. But we are full-time RVers. We do not own a home. As you saw from a previous video, we moved out of our house probably about 3 weeks ago now. We have no home. We're just staying with some relatives. We're kind of nomads, some vagabonds. But we are going to be full-time RVers. We're going to be purchasing our RV in about maybe a couple months. But we got one picked out, and that's it. So stay tuned. We'll keep you informed, and we'll bring you on the process as we become South Dakota residents. Okay, this is our first stop in transitioning from a citizen of Arizona to a citizen of South Dakota. We are at America's Mailbox. We're gonna head in. We think we've got all the documents and everything we need, and it should take just hopefully about 15 minutes or so, but we'll get back with you and let you know how easy it went, and if we hit any roadblocks or not.
The next day.
So good morning from the swimming pool and spa area of the Best Western Plus hotel in Rapid City, South Dakota. I apologize for being a little echoey in here, and because I'm in the swimming pool area, because it is about 6:15 in the morning, and it is the quietest place I could find where I could film. Karen's up getting ready for the day up in the room, and it was the quietest place I could find to film. But I didn't want to film the breakfast area because too many people eating, and then people start looking at you, and how come the strange man's talking into a camera? So I tried to find someplace quiet, a little out of the little out of the way, and the quietest place I could find was the swimming pool area. And of course, we have a really bad echo, but forgive me for that. But I wanted to kind of update you a little bit on what happened yesterday with getting our driver's license and registration, and then also why we chose South Dakota to begin with and why we're doing this. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. Spent most of my career there, probably not my career, but probably my life there. I spent a little bit of time in Lake Havasu for a while, and a few other parts of Arizona throughout my life. I spent 4 years in the Navy, traveled the world. Karen was born in Hawaii, and I spent some time in Taipei, Taiwan, when her father was in the military. And then she spent most of her high school years in Northern California, and then she ended up going to Colorado, and we both ended up meeting in Arizona. So as we decided to do this lifestyle of full-time RVing, and two retirees, looking at our finances and things like that, we tried to figure out what was the best bang for the buck for us, what was the best thing financially we could do to try to make our money last. And for that, we found out that some people who were full-time RVers were changing their domicile. They were moving from one state to another. Some were going to Florida, some were, I think, choosing Oklahoma, maybe some were choosing Oregon for different reasons. And then some were choosing South Dakota. And we started doing some research on South Dakota, And South Dakota had a lot of benefits. I'm not going to say that one state's better than the other. I'm just saying that for Karen and I, South Dakota was the best. Other people, Florida maybe the best or something else, but for us, South Dakota was the best. The first thing is there's no state income tax. So when we get our retirement checks, when I get my retirement checks, there's no state income tax taken out. Now the drawback to that is you're not going to be able to deduct that when you do your federal income tax, but at least for your state income tax, there's not going to be any withdrawals for that. So that's automatically a couple of $100 a month savings for me in our checks. Another reason was the registration for vehicles is much lower in South Dakota than it is for other states like Arizona. Some states, when you do registration of your vehicles, they just give it a blanket coverage of cars, and it doesn't matter whether your car is 5 years old or 10 years old or brand new, you're all paying the same amount of money for registration fees. Other states like Arizona, they base it upon the value of the car. The more expensive the car, the more newer the car, you're going to end up paying more in registration fees and what the car actually costs. So for us to register our Jeep that we just bought, our Jeep Wrangler, and then also potentially for the new RV that we're looking at, that's going to be, the registration fees in Arizona are going to be up there, whereas in South Dakota it's a lot cheaper, and you don't have to pay those exorbitant fees. You still have to pay registration fees, but it's not nearly as high as a lot of other states. So we chose South Dakota. We changed our domicile. And how do you do that? I mean, can anyone just do that? Not really. I mean, if you do it incorrectly, you're going to raise some red flags with the IRS, and rightly so. I mean, everyone's got to pay taxes. But Karen and I are, again, full-time RVers. We don't own a home. We literally do not own a home. We're staying with relatives right now. You saw in previous videos, we left our rental house. We're staying with some relatives, and we are on the verge of purchasing our first RV. So if you were going to do something like this, you can't, live in California, 10 months out of the year, and then, expect that you're going to be a citizen of South Dakota. I think that's an erase of red flags. Everyone needs to do their own research on how this gets done. But from what Karen and I have done our research, full-time RVers, people in the military, things like that, it's much easier to change your domicile. So I would strongly encourage you, just don't take our word for it, strongly encourage you that if you're going to do something like this, do your own research first. Make sure that you're crossing all of your T's and dotting all of your I's. So we did this for a financial savings. So really it was a big financial issue for us, just for cost savings. And then also for the will, if you're going to do a will, a living will, or a trust in the state of South Dakota, Karen's done her research on this and found out that the trust laws and the way wills are set up out here in South Dakota are actually much more of a benefit than compared to a lot of other states. I don't have a lot of detail on that. That's more kind of Karen's baby. She's kind of done a lot of research on that, but she's really big into trusts and wills and make sure that something happens to either one of us or both of us, that we're all set up, financially, that our kids and our children get what we need to get. So I keep looking over, not sure if someone's coming in the pool area or not. So I took a couple of notes. So what we did was, in case you're thinking about doing this, took a couple of notes, and then the first thing again we talked about was that you can't live in California for 10 months or Arizona for 10 months and expect to become a citizen of South Dakota. You need to basically be in the military, full-time RV or something like that. There may be a few other exceptions, but again, some people have homes in one state and they live in another state part of the year, like snowbirds, things like that. But you're definitely gonna have to be able to kind of have to divide up your residences if you're going to be that. If you're going to be a snowbird, you just can't live in one state for 90% of your time, then spend 5 or 10% in another state and expect that you're going to call that your state. That's not going to work. We're going to raise red flags. But for us full-time RVers, that was what we did. So, so what we did was we had to come to South Dakota, and South Dakota's laws to becoming a citizen are really easy. You have to spend one night in South Dakota, just one night in South Dakota, and we did that. If we went through, well, we're going to take a step back. We came here, we stayed here at the Best Western, and then after that we went down to America's Mailbox. There's several different companies in South Dakota that do this. again, just from our research, America's Mailbox seemed to be the best. And what America's Mailbox is, it's basically a mail service that you're going to get a physical permanent address. They give, our address is, in fact, pull up my wallet here with my brand new South Dakota driver's license on it. So I block all the important stuff up. My brand new South Dakota driver's license. Our address is 514 America's Way. And then it's got a box. It's got a box number. So we had to get a permanent address. So we came down here yesterday to America's Mailbox to get that permanent address. To get that permanent address, that's a pretty simple process. You're just going to go down there and say, I want this address. And you're going to have to sign some documents and things like that so they can accept your mail. When your mail comes in, if you're out on the road, if we're back in Arizona or driving around Florida Keys, wherever we might be, mail's going to come to you and they're going to scan it and then they're going to email it to you, the outside of the envelope. You're going to look at it and then you're going to either basically hit the delete button, I don't want that, it says junk mail, delete it, I don't need it, or you're going to say, it's interesting. Open that up, I'd like to see what's inside of that. And then they'll open that up and they'll scan the contents of the inside. That's a slightly larger additional fee for them to open it up and scan the contents inside. Then if you're expecting something, if you're expecting an important piece of mail, a check, something like that, and you see the outside of it, you're going to go, oh, that's the check I'm expecting. We're going to be in Portland, Oregon. Can you FedEx or UPS this over to Portland, Oregon at this address? And they'll do that. So that's how you're going to get your mail. Again, you're going to get your mail, you'll get an email, you'll look at it. If it's junk mail, you're going to delete it. If it's something you want, they can forward it, or if you're not sure what it is but you want them to open it, they'll do that. All those, that's all a cost, obviously. So we got that done, but going to America's Mailbox, and kudos to Cami, it's Cami, not Tammy, as I mispronounced it, C-A-M-I. Cami did a wonderful job. She really walked us through the whole process, and she got us set up for where to get the mailbox, and she told us how to apply for our driver's licenses, and then she even helped on our vehicle registration. The vehicle registration was another small thing, a hiccup. We didn't have all of our information for that. We're going to try to register our Jeep Wrangler in South Dakota, but one of the things that you're going to need is if you purchase the vehicle within 6 months, you're going to need the taxes that you paid to the state of Arizona, some kind of official document from the dealership for that. After 6 months, apparently you're not going to need that. I'm not sure of that. She didn't quite say that, but the indication was after 6 months, it's not necessary. But prior to 6 months, if you buy within 6 months, you'll need some kind of official document from the dealership on how much money they pay the state of Arizona, or a receipt from the state of Arizona to the dealership indicating that they've received X amount of money. We didn't have that. So we didn't get our vehicle quite registered in South Dakota. We're going to, but we had to make a couple calls yesterday, and our bank is going to basically coordinate with Cami at America's Mailbox and with the title and so forth to get their vehicle registered out here in South Dakota. Hopefully we should be able to do that all over the phone. There are no emission tests in South Dakota. Many states have it. Arizona has it. There are no emission testings in the state of South Dakota. So we got the mailbox set up, and then we had to go down and apply for our driver's license. Again, you've got to spend one night here in South Dakota. What we had to kind of jump through a few hoops there. On our app, when we got the reservation here, we didn't have our address yet for mailboxes, America's Mailbox. We didn't have that. So our address here that we used was our old address. We're not even living at anymore, but we're at our old address in Phoenix, Arizona. We had to update that address with our new America's Mailbox address, and then we had to have that printed out, a receipt from the Best Western here with our address of America's Mailbox. So we got that changed. Then we went down to the motor vehicle department, and unlike anything we've ever seen in Arizona, if you go into Phoenix, Arizona, again, I get it is a major city, it's the 5th largest city in the country, but if you go down there, you can expect to wait 30, 45 minutes, especially around noon, when it's lunch hour. People are trying to get down to the motor vehicle office as soon as they can. We got down there at 12:30, no wait, no one there. There was 3 young ladies there, very helpful. They said they've done this many, many times before because a lot of people do change their domicile to South Dakota. So we came in there, and We showed them our receipt from the hotel. We had to bring in 2 forms of identification. We had to bring in, so we brought our passport and my previous driver's license from Arizona. They also want, in addition to that, they also want your original social, not your original, but an official Social Security card you get from the Social Security Administration. I haven't had one of those, God, like 30 years. So I had to, prior to coming to South Dakota, I had to go to the Social Security Administration's website, request a Social Security card, and they sent one out to me, you know, within a couple days. But you can make sure you got your Social Security card. So we had that. If you are a veteran, make sure you have your DD-214, or you have at least a facsimile of it or something on. You can look at it electronically, is what I should say. And that's what I had, because then they're going to be able to put down. I'll roll this up here. They're going to put down the word veteran right there. So a lot of places now offer veteran discounts. I know the Home Depot does that, Lowe's does that. So you want to make sure you get that done. Make sure you bring your DD-214. So we got our South Dakota driver's licenses, and we are now official residents of the state of South Dakota. We had to surrender our old Arizona driver's license, which was fine, because again, this is our state now. So we did that, and then the only other thing we have to worry about is a registration for the Jeep. We think we're going to be able to take care of that over the phone. We're just waiting for proof from the dealership on how much taxes that we spent, and they transferred over to the state for the purchase of the vehicle. And then once that's done, we should be, I'm assuming, getting either real license plates or temporary license plate, one of the two, and then we'll update you on future videos about that. The whole process, it took longer for us. We had a couple other things we had to go through. I've alluded to this previously, but I've got a relative who I'm the kind of the medical care provider, medical power of attorney, who currently lives in Tucson. I shared that in a previous video. And we received his mail also, so we had to kind of jump through a couple of extra hoops on that. And then kind of coordination back and forth with the car dealership about the taxes. That took a few extra minutes, but it took us about an hour and a half. We made an appointment. We just didn't walk right in there. We made an appointment with America's Mailbox. So make sure you call ahead of time. You got to fill out a couple forms, sign some documents, make an appointment ahead of time, and then they're going to coordinate you setting up your mailbox, which does cost several $100s. Don't be shocked by that. And then to drive over to the motor vehicle department, which is about a 5-10 minute drive, wasn't very far at all. That took about maybe 20 minutes. We had to take a really quick eye test, fill out a couple documents, answer a few questions, and we were all good. We assumed it was probably going to take most of the day, and it did not. It only took probably half the day. So we had half the day left. So then we thought, let's just drive up to Mount Rushmore, and we did that. And you guys are going to see some video. You guys have already probably seen the video on that. But we took about 20, well, it's probably more along than 20, about 30-35 minute trip into Mount Rushmore. We did that. Really beautiful area, just jaw dropping. We come around the corner and see Mount Rushmore. It's like, oh my gosh. But it was really neat. First time we'd ever been there. We're planning on going back again later on once we get our rig and spend a lot more time there. But it was really neat to do. And then today, if we go according to plan, Custer State National Park. Hopefully there's a lot of wildlife there, buffalo and deer and animals, so we're going to do that. Okay, so that's what we're going to call it for right now. And again, if everything goes according to plan, you'll be seeing us at Custer State Park.